Hello, this is John Liu from Flow Studio, and we need to do an update. This is long overdue. We need to do an update for Flow Studio MCP. Uh, and since my last video, which is actually all around how to install the Flow Studio MCP, we've been working really hard. We've been listening to customers, and we've been watching. Actually, I would say we are listening to the LLMs using our tool and watching. Uh, Most of the time it gets to success, but sometimes it gets stuck. So we have done much work to try to drastically improve this situation. So this is, it feels like there's been many versions, but actually it's only been about 2 weeks. So this is quite a few updates, and I thought we should just sit down and record this. So the first update is, and I'll just go through and I'll just jump right in. So the first update is end of April, and there are some run name improvements. So we noticed that MCPs are having trouble when it tries to get a run, um, like it tries to get the run details. And usually what that means is they want to get the latest one. But sometimes MCP doesn't specify the run ID. So imagine if your MCP wants to read the latest run, you will have to fetch the last runs and then click and go into the first one. So we say, well, let's just do some assistance here. If your MCP did not specify a run ID, we will quickly grab the latest one and just continue. So that will just save you a little bit of code. And we did that with quite a few actions related to runs. If you did not specify a run ID, it will just automatically pick the latest one. So that was a quick update in the April 21, and then in April 27, the version 1.15. So this was actually quite a big update, and we wrote a blog post about this. The thought is that actually I have this nicer picture. I should use this picture. The thought is that the we were coming out with quite a few tools, and we noticed that with the recent generation, so I would say the LLMs from Claude and OpenAI, since about April, they no longer really read the whole tool list. And maybe this is a concept that many of the MCP tools have way too many tools, so they seem to just remember the top and then not remembering the later tools. And there was a big difference also when if a skill was loaded versus when the skill is not loaded. And sometimes MCPs, sometimes LLMs, they don't actively load a skill. So they will just look at the tool and they say, oh, I got this. And then they start poking around. And you can imagine sometimes they could go down not a happy path. So we notice these things, and we notice that as a trend, MCPs, and not just ours, but MCPs are starting to implement tool search. Now, it is not part of the official spec, but it will probably become part of the official spec. But in general, tool search allows a LLM to pick the tools that are related to what they want to do and not worry about loading and remembering every tool at the same time. So tool search is becoming very popular. So in 1.15, we put in both tool search and also skills into the MCP. So even if your LLM did not load a skill to use with our Flow Studio MCP, it could request the skill to be kind of added to its context directly from the MCP. So that's something that we started doing in 1.15. We had quite a bit of success with that. And then in 1.16, this is where things start to go interesting. Say you want to create an action in Teams, and in the Flow portal, you will click the Teams dropdown, and it will show you, your most recent teams, and then you select a team, and then it will say, oh, which channel, and it will show the list of dropdowns for the channel. Now, there are some APIs, there are some internal APIs that the Flow portal uses to help the user resolve those IDs. So basically, a display name versus a hidden ID. So in 1.16, we tap into those APIs and we bring that as a tool to the MCP. So now prior to 1.16, when you tell your agent and say, oh, make me a flow that talks to my work channel, work team in the general channel, it will be like, oh, I don't know what is the ID of the work team. I don't know what's the ID of the channel, right? Because it doesn't have access to graph to be able to find that out. But after this, it's able to use these helper tools that are available in the portal to basically resolve them. So you could do it. And similarly, say for SharePoint sites, or once you get to a SharePoint site and you want to select a list, now the Flow Studio MCP is able to just provide that directly through a connector. So that's made the experience much nicer. You could just say, hey, go get this list, and it will do its own internally. It will query and figure out which lists that you're probably talking about, and then you will select them and hook up your flow without needing some other way to read this. So that's 1.16, very fun. Try it out. 1.17, this happened this weekend. So beginning of this weekend, we were doing some testing, and we realized that the LMs would cheat a lot. If they see another similar flow that you already has and it's running, they will borrow a lot of the syntax from and goes, oh, this is what a JSON looks like here, and this is what a definition looks like here. So they will borrow that a lot. But if you're creating a new flow completely in a new environment, then the LM can get a bit stuck. So 1.17 is around this. We say, hey, what if we give kind of a little bit of hint? So the JSON that is expected to be able to, say, create a trigger or create this particular action. There are some very tricky ones. In one that comes to mind is the team post to channel action. At the very top, there is like a selector. You could post to a channel, you can post to a group, and you can post to a post as bot. So there's like these three ways of using this one action, and based on which one of these variants you choose, they have completely different JSONs. So these are quite interesting challenges for us to kind of lead your LLM down the happy path to say, okay, if you want to post a channel, actually the hint is you're gonna need this JSON, so follow this format. And that hooks up really well with the dynamic values. So in the JSON, we also give you hints about, oh, if you need to figure out how to do the channel, then use the dynamic values in this way. And we can happily say we watch the agent follow through, see the hint, and immediately follow with that call, resolve the ID, and then was able to move on. So this is really successful in that it could build out these actions quite smoothly without doubling back or kind of getting halted. 1.18, which is the immediate update that once we ship the hints, is as we were exploring more with the dynamic values, we realized with particular two data sets are SharePoint lists and Dataverse fields, so Dataverse tables, Dataverse entities. We realized, okay, when we get to the list or when we get to the entities, we want to then further and see the fields, so the columns that are in that. And there are certain actions, it's nice to know which columns are available. Say if you're writing back to that entity, you want to be able to say, okay, this property is this and that property is that. So we were experimenting with that, and we built an additional extension. It's called Result Dynamic Properties. So that's something that we added in 1.18, and then hook back up to the hints. So your agent will smoothly use these resolve dynamic methods. So there's values. Value typically is a display name and an ID. But with the dynamic properties, the one released in 1.18, the value, so it may be, say, the name of a column, say manager, and then the column will be quite a complex JSON. So you may have type and required and that kind of additional. So it's not just a display name versus the ID. So so these are all available and live. We're having a lot of fun watching all these. We do log the two calls from our customers, and then we're watching them kind of having some errors, but then being able to recover and self-heal and get to a happy result. So that's very encouraging to us. So probably this is the update. I'll just close here and let us know what you want to see. Maybe more demos. Yeah, let us know what you want to see.